A very good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us today for the special briefing on the developments and situation in Ukraine. This is more of a briefing on what's happened since yesterday. We had the privilege of having Foreign Secretary here with us to explain the situation. I'll just take you around what I think are some of the interesting developments, and we'll have a brief round of questions, but please bear with me that we can't spend too much time here as the situation is quite live. First of all, I'm happy to inform that there has been a sharp increase in the number of Indians who have left Ukraine over the recent past. We now estimate that nearly 17,000 Indian nationals have left Ukraine's borders since our advisories were issued. This, of course, includes some Indians who had not registered with the embassy earlier. So the 17,000 is a pretty high number. As you remember, Foreign Secretary mentioned a number of, I think, around 12,000 yesterday. Flights under Operation Ganga have also increased sharply. During the last 24 hours, 6 flights have landed in India, taking the total number of flights that have landed in India to 15, and the total number of Indians who have returned on these flights to 3,352. I'm also happy to share that as many as 15 flights, remember 6 flights last 24 hours, but 15 flights are scheduled over the next 24 hours. Some of these are already actually en route. 15 flights. So 15 flights over the next 24 hours, some of which, as I said, are already en route. Indian Air Force aircraft have now joined Op Ganga with the first C-17 flight from Bucharest, expected to return to Delhi or land in Delhi from Bucharest later tonight. 3 more Indian Air Force flights will be undertaken today from Budapest, Bucharest, and Rzeszów in Poland. Now, moving on to the situation there in Ukraine. The cities in eastern Ukraine remain areas of concern for us. Continuing violence there. There are encouraging reports that some students were able to board trains out of Kharkiv yesterday night, today morning, and we assisted in this process through the student contractors and other partners. As you know, we have been in communication with the Russian side regarding safe passage of our nationals from Kharkiv and other nearby cities. The advisory that has just been issued by our embassy a little while ago and also by us on the need for our nationals to leave Kharkiv immediately is on the basis of information received from Russia. We would urge all our nationals to leave Kharkiv immediately to the safe zones or further westwards, using any means available, including on foot, and keeping safety in mind. Now, moving on to the western side or the western borders of Ukraine, you would have seen the advisory put out today morning by our embassy in Warsaw regarding the movement across the Poland-Ukraine border. Indian nationals were advised to head to the Budomier's border point for a relatively quicker entry into Poland, avoiding the Szeni-Medyka border crossing that continues to be congested. I'm happy that that is actually working out quite well and more people are leaving through that. Of course, those who do cross the border on their own can directly proceed to a reception point on the Polish side that was indicated in that advisory. We are also trying to make arrangements for shelter and food in towns near the borders and requesting students not to go to those borders directly, as we said over the last couple of days. Now, with the arrival of Indian officials at the Embassy of India's Lviv office, this process will be strengthened and we should be able to assist people crossing the borders. A mechanism for issuing emergency certificates to those who have lost their Indian passports has been instituted. I think this will also help many Indian students. Evacuation through Slovak Republic and Hungary border crossings also is proceeding steadily. But we urge students there also not to reach the border points, for example, at Chop directly to avoid this long waiting times. They are requested to coordinate with our teams and follow the advisories. I'm happy to share that evacuation through Moldova is also picked up, particularly after our team at Chisinau has become operational. From Moldova, evacuees are taken to Bucharest to catch the Ganga flights. On the border areas, as well as in capital cities of Ukraine's neighbors, I mean Bucharest, Budapest, etc., our teams have made arrangements for food and accommodation for evacuees till they depart from India. With the large number of flights that are now being organized, this period will shorten, and hopefully soon they will be able to leave for India once they have crossed the border. Prime Minister's special envoys have reached the countries neighboring Ukraine, and you've seen the information on that, and are coordinating efforts firsthand there, and we will be sharing information on that also. I mentioned about our embassy, and I had received a few queries on this issue. The embassy was asked to set up a temporary office in Lviv, as I mentioned, to facilitate border crossings by Indian nationals. A substantial segment of our embassy team is now at Lviv for this purpose. The other segment, the location of the other segment of the embassy team is dynamic. We are exploring other options. We are exploring options for them to actually reach eastern Ukraine, to assist the evacuation of citizens who are stuck, as you know, on the eastern Ukraine, who are stuck. Once they come out of this, let's say Kharkiv, we are seeing if our teams can reach there. It's not easy because the route is not open all the time. But as I said, the location of that segment of the embassy team, as I mentioned, is dynamic. Moving on to the humanitarian assistance that we have announced by the Prime Minister. Foreign Secretary informed you yesterday, humanitarian aid in the form of medicines, medical equipment, tents, blankets, solar lamps, other material, is being sent to Ukraine in tranches. The first tranche of basically medicines, I think about 2 tons of it, was sent on yesterday, today is the second, yesterday, to Poland, through Poland, and is being handed over there. And we expect 3 more tranches, which will have tents, blankets, sleeping mats, etc. I think it's about 16 tons each shipment or something, will be sent today by the Indian Air Force flight, one of them, and the other one to Romania, and I think by some other airline to Poland. I will end here by saying that the MEA control room, as well as the control centers operated by our embassies, continue to operate 24/7 basis. The MEA control room has now attended 9,874 calls, nearly 10,000 calls, and responded to 7,657 emails. I think that gives a good flavor of what is going on. I know you'll have questions, so let me open the... 1 second. Please, microphone. जी जरूर. देखिए, अभी हमने देखा होगा, कुछ ही देर पहले हमने एडवाइजरी, हमारी एम्बेसी ने एडवाइजरी जारी की है, जिसमें हमारे नागरिक, हमारे छात्र जो खार्किव शहर में हैं, खार्किव की बात कर रहा हूँ स्पेसिफिकली, खार्किव शहर में उनको कहा गया है कि आप निकल लें वहाँ से शाम के 6 बजे लोकल टाइम के पहले, और 3 जगह बताई गई है. मेरे पास उसके कुछ डिटेल भी हैं, फिर से बताता हूँ. सॉरी, वो नाम है मेरे पास, हमारे प्रेस रिलीज में है. वहाँ पे चले जाएं. वो करीब 15 किलोमीटर रेलवे स्टेशन से दूर है. किसी भी तरह से वहाँ चले जाएं, हमारी आग्रह होगी ताकि वहाँ पे सेफ रहे. ये सेफ जोन्स हमें बताए गए हैं. हमें मालूम है कुछ दिक्कतें आ रही हैं जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं वहाँ पे निकलने में, ये स्वाभाविक है, और हम उनके कोऑर्डिनेशन कर रहे हैं स्टूडेंट कोऑर्डिनेटर से. तो हम आग्रह कर रहे हैं. सॉरी, 1 सेकंड. नाउ लेट मी टेक क्वेश्चंस इन अ मोर ऑर्गेनाइज्ड मैनर. प्लीज, आपसे शुरू करते हैं. ओके, विल टेक माइक्रोफोन. इंट्रोड्यूस योरसेल्फ.
नीरज, न्यूज़ 18 इंडिया से. आपने कहा कि रशियन इनपुट पे आधारित ये एडवाइजरी है. किस तरह के इनपुट है? क्या उनकी तरफ से आश्वासन दिया गया है कि सेफ पैसेज दिया जा रहा है, उसके बाद ये एडवाइजरी जारी की गई है ताकि रशियन बॉर्डर से वो निकल सके, या खतरा खरक्यू पे बढ़ गया, इस तरह का कोई इनपुट्स खुफिया आप लोग के पास है?
Who else was the hand up? 1 second. Yeah, okay, related question.
Sir, has Russia...
Introduce and...
Sir, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu. I'm from India Today. Sir, has Russia given an assurance regarding safe passage, and is the time till 21:30 today? Is there a 3-hour window for all the students and Indians to walk away to the nearest point, at least 15 kilometers away, as you were mentioning?
And from beyond, how many Indians are there in the conflict zone, especially in the city of Kharkiv? Any number if you can give us?
How many you said, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who else were it here? Yeah, sorry, I saw you first. Please. You had it.
Sir, I'm Meghna Dev from DD News. Wanted to know, there are 3 locations that have been given for students to reach. So is there any strategy, or people are figuring out what is going to be the onward journey, where they'll go from there?
Okay. Ma'am, I will take questions.
तो विजयलक्ष्मी हूँ मैं इंडिया टीवी से। एक और छात्र की मौत की खबर वहाँ पर आ रही है, उसके बारे में किस तरह की जानकारी है? चंदन जिंदल।
One more in this round, perhaps, or let me answer this. I mean, if you have something different, I'll come around to it. देखिए, नीरज से शुरू करता हूँ. आपने कहा ये रूसी इनपुट्स हैं किस तरह खुफिया, तो पता नहीं कुछ, पर Kanwaljit also asked about the assurances. Look, let me repeat what I said. We have issued this advisory based on inputs that the Russian side has given. We haven't chosen these locations. We haven't chosen the time. These are based on inputs that, as you know, we've been saying, and Foreign Secretary has said, External Affairs Minister also had raised, Prime Minister has also raised, conveyed to his counterparts of the need for a mechanism to safely evacuate our citizens, our nationals. Our advisory is based on inputs that we have received from the Russian side. I can't say anything beyond this because I think that's pretty self-evident. So I think those questions, I think that addresses that. Meghna, your question is also similar. The 3 locations that you mentioned, there's no particular strategy as such. These were locations that are reasonably close, and we feel these are our safe zones. And the request is to see if they can move there. Yes, I understand the difficulties. I understand some places, some people are reporting some difficulties of various kinds, including violence continuing. But look, we'll work with that. We are in touch with the student coordinators, and this advisory we would urge everyone to take seriously and leave. Siddhant, you mentioned how many people. It's a very difficult question to answer. We've been trying to give you assessments of where people are. I don't think it'll be an appropriate and accurate, considering that we're asking people to move out. As I mentioned, we had an original number of about 20,000 who had registered. Our sense is that the number of people who were there were a little more than who had registered, because we have now a broad understanding that about 17,000 people, or near 17,000 people, have left. So there would have been a little more to begin with who may not have registered, but obviously we will bring back every Indian who's there. So I don't think I know that some people left last night from Kharkiv in some trains, today morning. So I think instead of looking at those numbers, let's see whoever is left, let's see if we can get them all in. As you know, in Kyiv, we managed to do that. Fingers crossed that Kharkiv also continues the same way. Vijay Lakshmi ji, आपने जिक्र किया एक इंडियन स्टूडेंट जिसके बारे में, सॉरी आप यहीं बैठे हुए हैं, मेरे पास कुछ इसमें खबर है. चंदन जिंदल, एक स्टूडेंट विनीत्सिया में पढ़ रहे थे, आज उनकी मौत हो गई, और कंडोलेंसेस टू द फैमिली. पर ये नेचुरल कॉजेस में से हुई है. वो काफ़ी दिन से हॉस्पिटल में थे, और उनके साथ उनके फैमिली मेम्बर हैं यूक्रेन में उनके साथ, और हमारी तरफ से हमारी शोक एंड our deepest condolences. Let me go on to the next set of questions. Okay, hold on. You've been raising your hand earlier, so let me go here. Then come on.
Myself, Ananksha, I represent the New Indian. So yesterday you mentioned about the negotiation. What sort of negotiation is this, and what kind of back-channel diplomacy with Russia and Ukraine? And is it the same negotiator functioning on the both sides? And secondly, instead of the civilian airlines, we're using this IAF forces. Is it some sort of message?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part. IAF message to whom?
To the Russians. Instead of civilian air forces.
Instead of?
Civilian airlines.
Instead of civilian aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of, yeah.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I got it. Thank you. Yeah, please.
सर, शैलेंद्र फ्रॉम न्यूज़ 18. हमें कल बताया गया था कि बेलगोरोड में भी एक टीम तैनात की गई है MEA की, जो मॉस्को से गई है. वो काफ़ी करीब है खार्किव के. क्या उसके थ्रू एक कॉरिडोर की भी बात की जा रही थी कि वहाँ से एक कॉरिडोर बनाया जाएगा? आज जो एम्बेसडर की प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भी हुई है, रशियन एम्बेसडर की, उन्होंने भी इस बात पर कहा है कि हम कॉरिडोर बनाएंगे ताकि स्टूडेंट्स को वहाँ से निकाला जा सके. तो क्या अपनी एम्बेसी जो टीम वहाँ पर है उनको कुछ कोई रास्ता बना पाए हैं वो निकालने के लिए इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स को?
आपका?
Sir, I'm Suchitra from New Zealand Tamil, and there are students in the area of Mykolaiv or Nikolaev in Ukraine. So we are getting reports that they don't have any connectivity, including the rail station got blasted in missile hit. So do you have any update on that? How many students are there?
How many you said, no? Yeah, Sudeep?
Sir, Shruti Ranjan from the Bloomberg, sir. Any inputs or background you could share on whether Prime Minister is speaking to any of his counterparts or the EAM speaking to anybody else on the crisis and on the students also, sir? Thank you.
Shrinja? You, a second round later, please. Let me finish.
Sir, this talk of getting people out from the East has been talked about for a while. How feasible is it now? Because as you know, there is a window of opportunity to get people out. If there is safe passage from both sides, can the East, getting people out from the East, work out?
I saw one more hand. Okay, no, let me take this round of questions. Let me start with, I'm not sure, Arangsha, what you meant by negotiator. I don't remember the word negotiations. As I mentioned, we had been in touch with the Russians. I don't know if that's a negotiation. Diplomats tend to use the word negotiations a little more carefully. This is a discussions, and we've been in touch with them, and to basically press our demand that, as well as the Ukrainians, that we need a mechanism, a safe passage for our people. And as I mentioned just now, this is based on Russian inputs, what we have put the advisory. I wouldn't like to characterize it as a corridor or passage, but we would like to get all our people out. Your other part of it is we will, as Foreign Secretary I think mentioned on Sunday, we will use whatever options we need and is felt appropriate to bring out our people. As I mentioned, we had been using civilian aircrafts, and it was felt that our assets regarding C-17 would also be able to augment and help and streamline that process. And so we have been using it. If you recall it correctly, one of the C-17s has also gone out with humanitarian assistance out. So that's a decision that's based on operational requirement and ground situation. शैलेंद्र जी, बेलगोरोड में बात आपने की. जी, हमारी टीम सिर्फ बेलग्रोड में नहीं है, और भी जगह भी है, कुर्स्क में भी है, और कुछ और जगह भी है रशियन साइड पे. पर देखिए, ये हमारे चॉइस पे तो नहीं है. वो मैप में तो बहुत पास लगता है, पर अभी एक वहाँ हॉस्टाइल, वहाँ वॉर चल रहा है. तो अभी के लिए जो रूट लग रहा है, जो हमारी रशियंस की बातचीत करने के बाद जो हमने एडवाइजरी इशू की है, वो वेस्ट और साउथ वेस्ट की तरफ है. पश्चिम के दिशा से ही यूक्रेन की तरफ है. पूर्व की दिशा में वहां रशियन फोर्सेस होंगे या कुछ भी होंगे, हमें नहीं मालूम. मैं इसमें कह नहीं सकता हूं कि क्या, पर हाँ, अगर मौका मिले तो वो ऑप्शन हमारे पास है और हम उसको देख रहे हैं क्या हो सकता है. बट अभी के लिए जो आप जिक्र कर रहे हैं, खार्किव में जो हमारी एडवाइजरी है, उसमें सिर्फ ये 3 पश्चिम की तरफ जगह हैं, सेफ जोन्स की बात हम कर रहे हैं. You mentioned, Suchitra ji, of Mykolaiv. Yes, look, as I mentioned, Kharkiv, of course, we're looking at, but there are other cities. There is Sumy, there's Mykolaiv. Zaporizhzhia has now luckily been a little better. There are a couple of other places nearby. So our request has always been on a safe passage from Kharkiv and nearby adjoining places. The same response I gave to Siddhant. I don't think I would be in a position to share exact numbers. Our teams, both in MEA control rooms here as well as our MEA control centers or embassy control centers, are taking in all the information, and people do move. So let's, one of the problems we face is somebody sends a message saying, I'm here, and in 10 hours next day, by the time. So I think, but yes, we are focused on trying to get them out. And I mentioned right in the beginning, we are seeing if we can send an actual embassy team there somewhere in the eastern region to coordinate this from these places, depending, of course, on the ground situation. Sudhi, this is a question that I can answer very easily. When it happens, we will let you know. Prime Minister has been actually in touch with a lot of leaders over the last couple of days, as you know. He spoke to the neighboring countries. He's spoken to Poland. He's spoken to Slovak Republic. He's spoken to Romanian leaders. He also received calls from President Macron, as well as with, I think, the Commission head, Charles Michel, yesterday at the European Union. And So is External Affairs Minister. He also informs you of his conversations. So once it happens and we are in a position to share that, we'll certainly do that. Shinjo, I didn't get your exact details of your question. Yes, in the East is something that we are looking at. There are a number of towns. Some of them then people have reduced in because people have come out. We are open to looking at any option in which to do, whether it's East, West, or through the South. Wherever there is a safe route, a mechanism to bring out our citizens, we will use that. We are certainly exploring all the options. Okay, if there are no further questions, I would like to thank you. Okay, last. One second, ma'am. Microphone, please.
So one thing is that you're talking about how things have been escalating. So how soon can this eastern region be opened up? Also, there has been a query regarding Naveen's mortal remains. Is that a possibility, or you think it may not be possible to extricate him?
Okay, one second, one by one. Okay, and Naveen's, okay.
सर पश्चिम बंगाल की मुख्यमंत्री ममता बनर्जी कह रही हैं कि 3 महीने पहले लेकर के आना चाहिए था, बहुत देर सरकार ने कर दी वहां से अपने नागरिकों को, छात्रों को निकालने में.
Last question.
रूसी राष्ट्रपति व्लादिमीर पुतिन से आज दोबारा प्रधानमंत्री मोदी बात करने वाले हैं या हुई है?
ओके, नीरज जी, मैं जो प्रश्न का उत्तर मैंने अभी दिया सुधी जी को, वही मैं आपको दूंगा. प्रधानमंत्री जी बहुत देशों के लीडर्स के साथ बात कर रहे हैं. जब ऐसा कोई बातचीत होती है हम उसको शेयर करते हैं. मैं पहले से कुछ कहना नहीं चाहूँगा. Regarding your query regarding 3 months ago, look, I have a very good policy of not responding to comments that either have not seen or not directly. All I can say is, look, we take the decisions on evacuating our citizens at the appropriate time. We have been issuing advisories for quite some time now, and many people did leave. But a conflict situation has arisen, which has led to a formal evacuation process, which has started now. And as you can see, a significant number of people have been evacuated. I think MEA has been in partnership and cooperation with IAF and other partners across the government and civil aviation and other states has been quite successful in bringing out a large number, as you see. Unfortunately, there are pockets where violence and conflict is still underway, and that has made it a little more difficult. Nevertheless, as today's advisory indicates, we still see some hope of getting this done. That is linked to the question, Joe, who asked that one about Naveen's? Look, the Kharkiv is the focus. We know there are other cities, but the Kharkiv probably is the largest in terms of concentration of Indians that we had. We will continue to press. If Kharkiv, we can manage to do something today in terms of getting people out. But we will. I don't know what you mean by opening up the eastern region. Violence has to stop. We have to have a mechanism of ensuring safe passage. We are cognizant and we are pushing for that. As regards bringing back Sri Naveen's mortal remains, look, our endeavor is to facilitate the return to India of the mortal remains of Sri Naveen. In the current situation, of course, we are looking at how that can be done, and I'll share with you anything that we have later on. I think we'll stop here. Appreciate very much. आपका वॉइस नहीं आएगा माइक्रोफोन के बिना.
सर, आपने कहा शुरू में कि 17,000 लोग निकाले जा चुके हैं.
करीब 17.
15 फरवरी के बाद,
यानी नहीं, पहले से, जब से हमने एडवाइजरी पहले जारी की थी. मतलब हमने जनवरी के अंत में हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन शुरू किया था. अब तब से लगा लीजिए, हमने 17,000 डेट नहीं डालना चाहूंगा, कुछ पहले, एक आध दिन पहले. दिस इज गोइंग. हाँ, ओके, थैंक यू. करीब 17,000 के हमारे लग रहा है, हमारे जो नंबर्स आए हैं. या ओके, लास्ट फाइनल क्वेश्चन.
सर, जो पीएम की मीटिंग हुई थी उसमें ये कहा गया था कि अगर कोई डेवलपिंग कंट्री या फिर नेबरिंग कंट्री हमसे मदद मांगेगी तो इनके नेशनल्स को भी इवैक्यूएट किया जाएगा. क्या किसी कंट्री ने अब तक इवैक्यूएशन की रिक्वेस्ट डाली है?
देखिए, ये क्वेश्चन का मैं जवाब ठीक से नहीं देख पाऊंगा, क्योंकि हो सकता है ग्राउंड लेवल पे मांगा हूं या नहीं. पर मैं जो कहना चाहता हूं कि देखिए, इन प्रिंसिपल हम हमेशा दूसरे देशों की मदद करने के लिए तैयार हैं. अगर हमें कोई स्पेसिफिक रिक्वेस्ट मिले इस पर, तो उसको हमारा जो नजरिया होगा हम इसी से गाइडेड होगा. अभी पर अगर कहीं कोई स्पेसिफिक है, पता नहीं, मुझे तो मालूम नहीं है अभी कि ऐसा कोई है. पर अगर मौका ऐसा हो और हम कर पाए तो हम जरूर मदद करेंगे. Thank you very much for joining us for our special briefing. Please do monitor our social media as well as other handles, not just of the ministry, but also of our embassies in Ukraine and around. Thank you.